All right, welcome back. I get asked a lot of questions when people find out I'm build air guns or into air guns in general. It's like, what's the best air gun? Well, that's like asking somebody what's the best pickup truck. Is it a Ford, Chevy? Is it a Dodge, or even a Toyota? You know, everybody's going to have their preferences on that. So that's going to be a long debate. So what I would like to do in this video is just explain the difference in power plants of air guns. Obviously there's what a lot of people see, the brake barrel. The brake barrel is powered by a piston that is accelerated in some way, and those are broke down into nowadays either a spring or a nitro piston. And the next one would be a multi-pump. Everybody knows the Benjamins and stuff like that. They pretty much been around for a long time. As soon as somebody says a pump, then they'll think of Benjamins. The next one is your PCPs, and your PCPs is pretty broad too. It can be as simple as CO2 powered. You go from CO2 to compressed air. You can go into compressed nitrogen, which is not any more beneficial other than it's a little cleaner. And then you have helium. Well, we're not going to go into helium on this video. I'm going to do another video on modding the air guns to get a little bit more power out of them, for what I know about it. I'm not a professional at it. There are people that are, and we'll let them handle that. You can do some research on those. But here's going to be my video on, okay, this is a Springer and what's good about it and what's not good about it, you know, pros and cons. So I'm actually limited to my piston driven air rifles. I only have 2 in my collection, and now I'm gonna bring out the first one, and I know you're gonna laugh. This is a Springer. Yeah, it's not a brake barrel, but it's still a Springer. You technically cock it. When you cock it, you're compressing the spring, and when you let the trigger go, that piston driving that air to drive it down the barrel, drive the projectile down the barrel. So, but that is what a basic Springer is right here. Now, I do not have a brake barrel, but I do have what is called an underlever. Instead of breaking it, have the being split right here, and you cock it with the barrel itself. You cock this one with a lever here. That way the barrel is permanently attached. There's no movement. Me being a machinist, it's kind of hard for me to fathom. You take a barrel and do that to it, and it's in the exact same spot every time, so that when your scope is mounted back here, that it's exactly the same. I have a hard time with that. Obviously it's done because there's a lot of guns out there that do it. So, but this is a 177 Springer. We're going to call it a Springer. because it does have a spring in it. The other type now has what they call a nitro piston. The nitro piston, for you gearheads out there, or anybody that knows how to change shocks on your car, if you got a shock that's nitrogen filled, and you got that little wire that holds the piston on there until you get mounted into the car, and you cut the little spring and that thing goes boom up into the hole. Well, it's the same basic principle. It's a shock filled with nitrogen, and you're driving it with that instead of the spring. There's a couple advantages to that, is that there's no tuning needed on the spring. So that's one of the things you could look at. Now, when you go to the big box stores and you look at and you pick up a box that's say a brake barrel, and it says 1,200 feet per second, you need to read that fine print and find out what they got that velocity with, because a lot of times they use non-lead pellets to get that velocity. One of the best places to research what you're trying to buy is go to Pyramid Air. Pull up whatever you're kind of interested in, whether it's a Benjamin or a Gammo or whatever. I'm partial to Benjamin's Crossman stuff, and not so much the Gammo stuff. Umarex has some pretty good stuff. But if you go in, anyway, go to the Pyramid Air, and pull up whatever gun you want to pull up. If you'll go down and look through their deal, one of the things about Pyramid Airs is they'll get a gun in, and they will open that box. They will shoot various amounts of pellets across the chronograph, and they actually put on there, okay, you got this much velocity using this pellet, or at least lead pellets versus plastic pellets or whatever, you know. That's one of the best things to actually look for. So with that in mind, now what's good about a Springer brake barrel? No support equipment needed. You get it out, you crack the barrel open, put a pellet in it, pull the trigger. It'll keep doing that as long as you take care of it. Don't abuse it. The seal in it should last thousands of shots. Like I say, unless you abuse it, there's no reason for it to go out. And there's people that do abuse them by trying to induce other elements into the situation, and I'll probably talk about that in modding an air rifle. So anyway, pros: no sport equipment. Cons: there's really not any. It's one of the best things to get for never needing maintenance and stuff like that. All right, well, let's move on to pumpers, multi-pumps. Let me move these out of the way. There are several multi-pumps on the market. This is a Benjamin. Now, it's a modern Benjamin, made by Crossman, technically. Crossman bought out Benjamin a while back. If you find the older Benjamins and get them rebuilt, they're great, along with the Sheridans. Okay, so what's good about this? First of all, again, no support equipment. pump it up, put a pellet in it, pull the trigger. As long as you don't abuse it, same thing. Take care of it, keep the seals oiled on it, it'll work. Velocity on them. You're only going to get so much velocity out of it. I think I pumped this one up. This is a 22 caliber, and I'm getting close to 700 feet per second. That's all you're ever going to get out of it until you mod them. Like I say, that's going to be a different video. So that's that. All right, let me pull up the next thing. These things don't sit very good. All right, this is a Crossman CO2 powered. Everybody's seen these before. CO2 cartridges. This particular one I ordered straight off of Crossman's website. It's a custom ordered, custom stock on it. The length of the barrel I wanted, and they'll even engrave it. And this one actually here is my son's, and it says Boss Sniper on it. I don't know if y'all can see that in video or not. It says Boss Sniper. Now this on the end is an aftermarket product, but this runs off of this one. This rifle runs off a 88, 90 gram CO2 bottle. Goes in right here, screw it in, you're good to go. Several hundred shots. It is also a repeater. It holds 2, 4, 6, 8 shots. There's all kinds of different variations of this. Let me show you one more, and then we'll discuss the CO2. Now, this is a custom-made gun by me. This was my very first air rifle I ever built. It will run off of a CO2 bottle. Now, I have since I built it, converted it to high pressure air, but it will run off CO2. Now, pros and cons of CO2. You're only going to get up to a certain amount of velocity, even after you mod it. CO2 produces an X amount of pressure, and that's it. You're never going to get anything else out of it. I want to say it's 800 and something PSI at 70 degrees. I can't remember what the numbers are. With saying that, let's get into the pros and cons of CO2. First of all, you're going to need to buy CO2, whether it's the little cartridges or the big cartridges, or you're going to take and go have this filled, or if you have a bottle to fill off of, you can do that too. You can get a big large bottle of CO2, fill the small bottles with it. which is fine. But you're limited to that. That's one of the cons on it, is you're limited to having to always get one of these bottles or the little cartridges. You have to know how many shots you get. Say like you on the little ones, how many shots are you going to get out of it? That's one of the things of practicing with your guns. Like, okay, you know, I'm at shot 30. All of a sudden you start seeing the pellets impact dropping. Well, then you know your limit on those. So power is limited, shots count is limited on that. So the next step up from this is PCP, which, like I say, this is PCP too, but this is CO2 powered PCP. Now, this is another custom rifle by me, but it is basically a Discovery, Benjamin Discovery. It has all the internals of a Discovery, and all the externals are custom. That's one thing about the Discovery and this rifle. These two are probably the AR of air guns. You can buy pretty much anything aftermarket out there for one of these two guns. I mean, there's just a ton of you can bling it out, you can camo it out, whatever. Do anything you want with them. Like this one's got a custom chassis and stuff, and got I've got a flashlight on it, all kinds of things. Folding stock. You can just mod these things out all kinds of ways, blinging them out, whatever you want to call it. Okay, pros on these. Velocities. Your velocities get on up there versus the CO2. You can get them stock, and I forgot what they shoot stock, but once you modify them, you can get a lot more velocity out of them. So, pros and cons on this. More velocity, more accurate to me, because there is no recoils or anything like that. Cons, lots of support equipment. And by support equipment is, you're going to need a way to fill this gun. There's basically two ways to fill it. You can buy the pump, the hand pump, which is basically a bicycle tire pump is what it looks like, except you can reach pressures of 3,000 or more with them. If you're not a young person, it will wear you out. So not to be able to use one of those, you're going to need a bottle like this or bigger. This is a small bottle technically. If you get the big bottles, which they range, you know, small, medium, and large. The larger ones are the same tanks that the firemen wear on their backs. Some people will say they're scuba tanks. If you get the ones that are rated at around 3,000 psi or maybe 3,600 psi, I can't remember exactly what it is, those are considered scuba tanks. This is not considered a scuba tank, because in the United States it's against the law to scuba dive with a 4,500 psi tank unless they've changed the rules. I know in Europe you can, but in America, this is not a scuba tank. This is a self-contained breathing apparatus. The U is not in there. It's not a self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Just make sure y'all know that. So the support equipment on these things are crazy. Can be very expensive. That bottle alone will cost you several $100s. And if you get into the bigger ones, they're going to cost you in the neighborhood of $750. And you can get in there in the market and used market and stuff like that, and maybe get into it a little cheaper. Now you need to fill that bottle. One of the ways to fill it is go to most scuba shops, like I was saying, won't fill past 3,000 psi because you can't dive in America with 4,500 psi's. So the next best place to go to is a paintball field. They usually have a compressor that will fill up to that. That's the cons, definitely the cons on PCPs with compressed air. You can get them compressed with air, just ordinary air, you know, atmospheric air. You can go get nitrogen bottles, fill them with that. Good thing about those is it's drier air. You got to make sure your air supply is good and dry. If you don't, you'll rust the inside of the barrels, or not the barrels, but the tubes, air tubes. Cons, well, that was the cons. The best thing about them is they're super accurate because there's no recoils to them. Springers, you got recoil. You got a double recoil. You actually got a recoil of the spring moving and then the actual pellet firing. You get it both ways. It will tear up a scope that's not rated for a Springer, so make sure y'all remember that that you need a scope that's rated for Springers. All right, what else? There's different versions of PCP. This is an unregulated gun. I mean, you fill the gun up with whatever it's rated at. This one's technically rated at 2,000, but the way I've got it modified, I can do more than that. Let me show you a regulated one. Now, this is again another custom gun by me, so here's the air tube. This is a regulator here. It is set, well, a fill to 3,000 psi. The air coming out of it is regulated at 1,700 psi. Gives me a constant velocity, so my velocity is constantly within 5 psi, or not 5 feet per second. Anyway, so that's on these, on a regulated one. So now the question goes back to what we began with. What is a good 22 pellet rifle, or whatever caliber? What's a good pellet gun? You need to look and see what you're going to do with it. Are you going to be putting it in a bug out bag? You know, do you want to be able to get quick shots? So to me, something like a bug out bag, a break barrel. No way around that. It's easy. Grab it out, cock it, put a pellet in it, shoot it. Multi-pumps, well, if you ain't got it pumped up, you know, you got a squirrel sitting in front of you, you want to shoot, here you are, you know, trying to load a pellet in it, unless you already got it loaded. A lot of people don't like to leave them pumped up, but maybe a little pumped up, but not full pumped up. So depends on what you want to do with it. They say that if you want CO2, I've killed squirrels with CO2s, I've killed rabbits, so it's got enough power, but it's limited power. The Springers definitely have enough power to kill small game. PCPs, they're from the low end all the way up to you got your something like a 45 Texan, which is putting out 500 to 600 foot-pounds of energy. This one's putting out about 19 foot-pounds of energy. It will still kill a squirrel or rabbit, no problem. It really depends on what you want to do with it. Do your research. Figure out exactly what you want to do with it. You say if it's a bug out bag, or if you just want to shoot a tin can out in the backyard, well hell, the Daisy Red Ryder will do that all day long. You know, how much do you want to spend on it? That's the key. Is most people think it's an air gun. I'm not going to spend a bunch of money on it. Well, if you're planning on it to be in a bug out bag, you know, or survival gun, why are you being cheap? Put out the money for a good one, something you know is going to go bang every time you pull the trigger on it. You don't want to spend the money on an air gun. Oh, it's just an air gun. Well, then don't buy an air gun. Go buy you a 22 or something, 22 long rifle, because you're never going to be satisfied. You need to buy good quality equipment. That's the key to being successful. You can buy the $150 guns at academies and Walmarts and stuff, and they'll probably do you okay, but if you really want to get into it as a good quality tool, you're going to pay more for it, and you're going to go to somewhere like Pyramid Air Gun Depot, Air Guns of Arizona, Air Guns of Utah, or Utah Air Guns, whatever it's called. I can't remember offhand, but I think it's Utah Air Guns. They sell in the higher quality air guns. Do a little research on it. See what you can find that's not technically false advertisement, but an advertisement to lure you into buying it because, oh, look at this one. It's got this crazy insane velocity. Well, research and see if it actually does have that with a good lead pellet. Other than that, it's all preference. Really, it's all preference. It's all preference, and it's all about how much you're willing to spend on one of them. So anyway, I'll probably let this video run too long already. Just basic air gun, your basic power plants, if you will, and the quality of your guns. That's the main thing you want to deal with. So, all right, this is running too long. We'll get into doing a little bit of modding on the next one video, and well, that's gonna be it. I'm gonna cut it right here. Thanks for watching.